travel back in time with us to when Magnus Carlsen, the name you know so well, was just a 13-year-old boy full of dreams and potential in the throbbing heart of a vast chess battleground known as the Arena. He claimed his spot at a special table, the epicenter of an imminent storm. While he waited, he didn't just sit still. He walked around, moving here and there. His family huddled nearby, their faces a canvas of nerves and unspoken hope. They knew he was going to be a world champion someday, but this time he was going against someone very special, the GOAT, Garry Kasparov. Kasparov had never played against someone as young as Magnus before. Here's the thrilling twist: Magnus was not just a clever kid, he was a true prodigy, so prestigious that he earned a handsome sum just to grace the tournament with his skills. That's how good he was. So while he waited, he tried to have fun. He sipped on a glass of what looked like a yummy soft drink. He also picked up a book and flipped through its pages, maybe to learn some new tricks. And he looked around. He saw other chess games going on. It was exciting to watch. The time seemed to go by slowly, but finally the big moment arrived. The legendary Kasparov showed up, and it was time for the chess battle to begin. When titans go head to head, the air crackles with a fervor that is off the charts. People hold their breath with anticipation, their hearts racing with anticipation as the stage is set for a grand spectacle. There stood the young Norwegian lad squaring off against a giant in the realm of chess. And so, with all eyes on them and the world holding its breath, the game kicked off, teetering on the precipice of a historic moment that was yet to unfold. Carlsen, commanding the white pieces, kicks off the game with a d4 move, cutting a swift path across the board. Kasparov encounters with a mirroring the move, pushing his d-pawn 2 squares forward. Pawn game. Like a seasoned great, Carlsen matches his c-pawn 2 squares forward, aiming to seize control of the board's heart while craving paths for his troops. Black replies with their own c-pawn move, pushing it 1 square forward. Carlsen boldly strikes his knight to f3, a versatile square that opens up control of the central squares. Black follows suit and brings out its knight to f6, mirroring white's knight's development and fortifying the d5 pawn. Carlsen maneuvers his other knight to c3, placing the crosshairs on Kasparov's d5 pawn and maintaining a firm grip over the central territories. Black advances its e-pawn 1 square forward, further bolstering the centre and allowing their pieces more freedom to develop. Carlsen then orders his bishop to g5, pinning Kasparov's knight to his queen, an ingenious tactic to exploit weaknesses in Kasparov's dark square defence. This move exerts pressure on Black's position, targeting weakness in the dark squares around the Black king. Black decides to prepare for casting kingside by bringing out another knight to d7. Next, Carlsen fortifies his central pawn on d4 by propelling the e3 pawn forward. This move also paves the way for his queen and bishop to join the fray. This move also clears the path and allows the queen and bishop to be more active. Black plays qa5, eyeing the vulnerable a2 square and also supporting its d5 pawn. The game quickly evolves into the Cambridge Springs defense, a chess scenario distinguished by the queen on a5. This cunning maneuver not only frees the queen from a potential pin, but also reciprocally pins white's pieces. This move serves multiple purposes. Primarily, it allows the queen to escape a potential pin and simultaneously places white pieces in a pin. Moreover, it opens up possibilities for the queen to function laterally, playing a versatile role on the board. One key tactic that might emerge later on is the potential capture of d by c, which could lead to material gains for black. As we delve into this intricate ballet of strategies, it's worth mentioning an intriguing trap that this opening, known as the elephant's trap. By slightly altering the move order, we arrive at a situation where white or black can fall into an elephant trap. However, this is typically avoided at the higher levels of play, as experienced players recognize the danger and definitely steer clear of it. Nevertheless, it's essential to be aware of such possibilities in this opening forms part of your repertoire. As the game unfolds, following the queen's audacious moves to a5, white counters with a swift strike, dispatching the knight to d2. This crafty maneuver shatters the pin while also standing guard over the pivotal e4 square. Either of white's noble knights now stand ready to shield this crucial stronghold. This tactical turn of events primes the stage for white to execute seemingly natural maneuvers, like the bishop to d3, paving the way for castling while maintaining a watchful eye over e3 square. Black has the option to move their knight to the e4 square, adding pressure on white's knight on c3 and bishop. The sequence of moves leads to an interesting scenario. If white decides to remove one of the attackers on the c3 square by having the bishop take the knight, subsequently black can play d takes e, freezing up the 5th rank for their queen. To counter this, white's best move is to knight to e5 to safeguard their bishop. Following f6, a slightly unconventional variation emerges. Queen move to h5, knight takes pawn advances to g6, knight captures, pawn captures, queen captures, rook, queen captures bishop, creating a peculiar imbalance. Surprisingly, black actually gains an advantage in his situation despite the appearance of a slightly vulnerable king. The isolated queen alone cannot disrupt the solid position of black's king. As the game progresses, black's bishop position themselves for a further attack on white's king. The queen's placement on a5 is notable, functioning on this diagonal white while maintaining lateral movement possibilities. In the game, after white moves to knight to d2 to break the pin, black counters with the bishop to b4. White's queen moves to c2 to offer support to its knight, while black castles and white replies with bishop e2. Black strikes at the white centre with the move e5. There are plans to develop the bishop later, but it remains stationary on c8 for a considerable period in this game. A key detail to note is the importance of lateral movement. The difference between placing bishop on e2 or d3 is crucial, as it can make or break the game. An incorrect move by white with the bishop to d3 would result in a decisive advantage for black, as their in-between move is stronger, capturing the bishop, threatening the queen, and only then recapturing this would leave the black in an advantageous position, up a minor piece. White's king is castled kingside, a crucial step in ensuring its safety and connecting the rooks. Black captures the d4 pawn with its ex-d4 move, exchanging a central pawn and potentially opening up lines for their pieces. As the knight targets the queen with a move to b3, it becomes apparent that black's queen retreats to b6 to avoid potential complications. Initially, one might think that the knight's maneuver was merely to capture the queen, but it seems that there's a more solid approach at play here. By avoiding an isolated queen-pawn structure, white can maintain a better position, which is advantageous in the long run. Their tactical awareness becomes critical as we evaluate different possible moves. White executes a captivating capture, gracefully taking down pawn on d4 with its e-pawn. This opens up lines and possibilities on the board. Black responds, accepting the sacrifice and gracefully capturing c4 with its d-pawn, exuding a sense of composure. But if white were to play knight captures pawn and the bishop responds by taking the knight, one should be wary of the knight pivoting to e4 square, as this could cause significant trouble. In this scenario, capturing the pawn would be essential for white to escape the unfavourable situation. However, white opts for e and takes d instead, resulting in an isolated queen pawn after d takes c and the bishop takes c. This isolated queen pawn grants white a dynamic advantage, offering a potential to press forward in the centre and change the pawn structure to their advantage. The lead in development white possesses is likely to prove useful in the subsequent moves. Black's decision to play a5 is a typical strategy. Knights positioned on b3, b6, g6 and g3 often face challenges when rook pawns come down to attack them. To thwart this threat, white plays a4, preventing the rook pawns from distributing and disrupting the knight's position. While the move requires some concession, it aims to preserve the knight's advantageous location temporarily. Black's queen makes its way back to c7, working along the h2 diagonal. White brings their rook into action with rook to e1, and after black pushes its h-pawn to h6, white plays bishop to h4, then the black bishop is displaced to d6. The h3 move comes next and black responds with a knight to b6, further shaping the dynamic nature of the game. Notably, there was a pinned pawn, rendering the corresponding piece powerless and vulnerable to a deadly check. This could potentially lead to a swift victory at this early stage. If the movie g5 had been played by black, there is a sequence of moves that could prove devastating. The white bishop would have come to g3, bishop takes bishop, pawn takes bishop, queen takes pawn, and the white queen checks the king because the pawn on f7 is pinned. Then the king moves, the queen takes a pawn and subsequently blocks with the knight gaining another pawn. Consequently, the black position weakens and their king becomes exposed. It's important to be mindful of the bishop on c4 as it holds significant potential in the game because it is eyeing a pinned pawn. As the game progresses with moves like bishop back, bishop d6, h3 and knight b6 targeting the bishop, it becomes evident that blacks must come up with a plan to untangle their position. Currently, the pieces on the queen side appear inactive, and the knight's movement limitations lead to a domino effect that impacts the entire board. The game reaches critical points when Kasparov's move knight b6. The situation involves various captures, but it's not merely a typical exchange in which the bishop takes f6 and the knight takes c4. Instead, white responds with a counter-attacking move, a knight to e4, which centralizes the knight and simultaneously targets both the bishop and the black knight on b6. Black initiates a check on h2 and forces the white knight to h1, where a slight improvement might have been possible. However, from this point on, white seizes control of the game and gains a powerful initiative. Throughout the game, white consistently maintained a slight advantage and now begins to pose even greater threats to black. In this intriguing game, we witnessed a key moment with the move knight d6, followed by the consequential king takes bishop, which appeared to be one of the devastating discovered checks. Surprisingly, in this particular instance, the situation isn't as dire. After the knight captures e4, we see a counterattack with the bishop relocating to e5. Regrettably for black, they find themselves forced into a pin to safeguard their knight by playing knight to d6. When a piece is pinned, the best strategy is to capitalize on it further, as demonstrated by the power queen c5 move, attacking two pieces simultaneously and granting white the initiative in the game. White continues to apply pressure with d5 targeting c6 and creating room on d4 for the black knight. Meanwhile, the two pieces on the queen side remain stagnant, contributing little to the ongoing action. Black plays rook d8, white plays d5. Black wisely responds with queen d7 and attempts to escape the pin's constraints. Nevertheless, white persists with knight d4, adding more pressure to c6, and black plays king to f5, advancing strategically. D takes c, b takes c, and knight takes c6. This leads to white gaining a pawn advantage, while the knight poses a constant threat to the black rook. Throughout the game, the two pieces on the queen side appear somewhat ineffective, while black's rook comes to life with rook to e8, followed by white's rook d1, and then black plays queen e6. Then a very human-like move, rook f to e1, tidies up the position and centralizes the rooks, allowing all of the white pieces to function optimally. The situation becomes increasingly uncomfortable for black, while white gains a potential advantage and maintains control of the game. The bishop was unprotected, but the rook moving from f to e1. Everything becomes well coordinated and defended, with the rooks supporting each other and controlling central squares. The alternative that could have been made in this position is a bishop's move to c7. The bishop to c7 move would have added a third attacker to the a5 pawn, potentially leading to the creation of a strong connected passed pawns on the a and b files. By adding a third attacker to the a5 pawn, it increases the pressure and the potential threats for black. Nevertheless, the rook ultimately moves from f to e1 instead. As the game progresses, both players make logical moves, with the bishop making significant impacts when it positions itself on a good light square diagonal. Black plays bishop b7, however, despite white being up a pawn, converting the advantage becomes challenging due to the opposite coloured bishops present on the board. This type of endgame often leads to a draw, seen in this position. White moves the knight from its current position to d4. This move attacks black's knight on d4, increasing the pressure on it and also threatening black. Queen on g6. Black responds by capturing white's knight on d4 with its own knight on f5. This exchange results in the removal of white's knight from the board, but it also opens up the opportunity for white to capture the black knight on the next move. White captures the black knight on d4 with its queen. This move not only gains a material advantage for white by capturing the knight, but also keeps the pressure on black's position. Black moves the queen to g6, attacking the white pawn on g4. White moves the queen to d4 to g4. This move attacks the black queen on g6, offering an exchange. Black accepts the exchange. White captures the black queen with its white pawn on h3. Black moves to bishop c6, placing it on an active square where it eyes both the white pawns and g2, a4. White advances the b pawn to b3. This move creates a chance to create a passer and enhance white's chances in the endgame. Black advances the f pawn to f6, attacking white's bishop. Throughout the game, both sides make strategic moves to defend and attack various pawns and squares, reacting to threats while maintaining a degree of aggression. When the bishop is threatened by f6, it retreats to c3 to ensure control over the critical pawn. The rooks are also crucial in the endgame, and both kings improve their position to have an active role in the play. But one rook from each side eventually exchange in the next move. Then black plays bishop d5, attacking white's b3 pawn. White moves 2. Rook to b1, black's king moves to f7, white king's move to g3, which is standard king move in the endgame to centralise the king and potentially prepare it for active play. In the later stages, black moves rook to b8, putting it in an open file and attacking the b3 pawn. White advances the a pawn to a5, creating another pass down, this time from the a file. Black moves its bishop to a6, stopping the white a5 pass down. White advances the f pawn to f3, creating a safe square for their bishop to retreat to if needed, and potentially preparing the advance of the g pawn to create a passed pawn. Black's king moves to g6. White's king moves back to g3, re-centralising itself and maintaining its defensive posture. Black advances h-pawn to h5, creating an escape square for the king and potentially preparing an advance of h-pawn further to open up its lines against the white's king. White captures the black h5 pawn with its g4 pawn and black recaptures it with its king. White checks black's king on h5 with the rook, forcing the king to move. Black's king moves to g6, getting away from the check. White moves the bishop to c5, black moves the rook to b2, creating a counter-attack against the white g2 pawn. White's king moves the back to g3, and black moves the rook to a2, attacking the white a5 passed pawn. White moves the bishop to b6, attacking to d8 square and preparing to potentially support the promotion of the a5 pawn. Black's king moves to f7, possibly intending to bring the king closer to the centre. Then white's rook moves to c1, activating itself. Black advances to the g-pawn to g5, possibly preparing for the endgame. After that, white checks black's king on g7 with the rook, forcing the king to move. Black king moves to g6, white moves rook to c6, attacking the black f6 pawn. Suddenly black moves its bishop to f1 square to attack the g2 pawn. As the game progresses, both players realise that a win is unlikely, and that the rooks are crucial for white's chances. With the rooks still on the board, there is a slim chance of a white victory. However, as the game develops, both players navigate their moves skillfully, leading to a balanced position with no clear winning opportunities. In the end, after careful consideration of possible moves like bishop to d4, both players acknowledge the drawn nature of the position, and the game ends in a draw after the move bishop to f2. It's absolutely noteworthy to mention that this remarkable encounter featured a 13-year-old Magnus Carlsen drawing against legendary Garry Kasparov, making it an incredible and memorable game in the world of chess. Carlsen's family was super proud of him for his awesome performance. After the match, Kasparov seemed like he was in a hurry. He quickly put on his coat and left the arena, but guess what? Our hero Carlsen was only 13 years old at the time, and he achieved something incredible. It was a special moment that made everyone go, wow. Do you know what's even more awesome? Carlsen kept getting better and better over the years. Around 9 years later, in 2013, he became the world champion by defeating another chess superstar from India, named Anand. Carlsen achieved the highest ever rating in chess history. On the other hand, Kasparov, the legend of chess, didn't just stick to chess, he went on to become a political activist too. Looking back at that thrilling match in 2004, some people think of it as a special moment. It's like the passing of the torch from the great Kasparov to the future of the chess superstar Carlsen. And that's it for this amazing tale of two incredible chess players. They both showed us that hard work and dedication, you can achieve anything you want. So keep practicing, keep learning, and who knows, maybe one day you'll be the next chess legend too. That's all for now. Thanks for being part of our community, and we'll see you in the next exciting episode. Take care and bid you adieu.